animals use a variety of signals to better help them understand their environment. Signals can be simple, such as a contact call, which just signifies their presence within an area, and signals can be a little bit more complex. This would include context-specific or semantic communication. This type of communication communicates information that is consistently interpreted within a community, such as the way that I'm speaking to you. You guys can all understand what I'm saying and the words and what they mean. If I instructed you to look up, everybody would know to look up and would follow suit. Alarm calls can also be classified as context-specific communication. This is seen in black-capped chickadees who can alter their alarm call type to better suit characteristics of their predator. They can classify their predator as sedentary or in motion, and they can also communicate information about the size. Vervet monkeys use alarm calls similarly. They can identify a specific predator type with their alarm call. So their context-specific alarm calls include at least these three animals: eagle, leopard, and snake. So upon seeing an eagle, a vervet monkey will let out an alarm call, and hearing this call will make other monkeys scan the sky and go into a bush for cover. The leopard alarm call will elicit a scanning the area response and climbing into a tree for safety. And the snake alarm call will cause monkey to stand up and scan the ground to find the snake and avoid predation. Animals that are in captivity lack predators, therefore there's not a need for alarm call, though it has been recorded in vervet monkeys that they will use alarm calls in a social environment, but they will apply them to other objects such as a wire or an airplane. Now, animals in captive isolation, they lack a social group to even use alarm calls with, therefore there's no need to even vocalize alarm calls because there's nobody to communicate with. They also don't have the ability to socially learn alarm calls, which is what is seen in wild monkeys. Now, this is Ross. He's a captive, isolated monkey, and he lives at Octagon Wildlife Sanctuary in Southwest Florida. There's no evidence of Ross hearing a vervet monkey before this study had began. What we did with Ross was a simple playback experiment, and we used 5 different vocalization types. 3 of them were the vervet alarm calls from wild monkeys that we discussed before, the eagle, leopard, and snake. Another call was a vervet social call, also from a wild vervet monkey. And the last call was a European starling signal. And Ross has likely heard that before since the European starlings are native to Southwest Florida and they're in the area. We played the calls for 10 seconds each, and we recorded his behavior 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after each call. So we analyzed our data on R, and we used a box plot to help illustrate what we found. We compared the behavioral response before and after the signal was played, and we used the behavior outlined on the y-axis to compare. The hard, bold line in the middle represents the median, and each dot represents an individual data point. The 3 red signals are the alarm calls we discussed earlier, and the blue and the green are the 2 controls, social and starling, respectively. So first we looked at the amount of time that Ross spent oriented towards the speaker, and we saw there was no orientation towards the speaker before any signal was played. And after the signals were played, we saw a significant increase in orientation towards the speaker after the social call was played, and that behavior was not seen for any of the other 4 calls. This suggests that Ross recognizes the vervet social call because that's the behavior we expect in a wild monkey to orient towards the source of a social call. Then we looked at Ross scanning behavior or surveying the area in rapid succession. And we saw there was little scanning before any signal was played, but after signals were played, the 3 alarm calls, with eagle, leopard, and snake, elicited a significant increase in scanning. So this suggests that Ross can recognize the alarm nature of alarm calls since he displayed scanning behavior after they were played, which is a natural response for wild vervet monkeys. Then we wanted to see if Ross could recognize each specific predator type in the alarm call. So first we looked at the snake response. We wanted to look at Ross's bipedal standing, but he did not stand bipedally throughout the course of the study. So we also looked at quadrupedal standing. And we're focusing on this purpley box. And we saw there was before and after there was no significant change or increase after the snake signal was played, and that behavior wasn't seen for any signal either. Then we wanted to look at the eagle-specific response, which remember is normally hiding in a bush, so we looked at whether he's in a house or behind an object. And again, we're looking at this orange one. He did not show a significant increase after the eagle call was played in hiding, suggesting Ross did not recognize that the eagle specific alarm call was signifying an eagle. Lastly, we looked at leopard and the amount of time he spent elevated after the leopard call was played. As monkeys will normally climb to a tree, we looked at whether he went up to a shelf or another item in enclosure. And we're looking at the pink one. And again, there's no significant difference or increase after the leopard call was played, suggesting Ross didn't recognize the leopard-specific alarm call. So there were 3 key findings of this study. The first was that Ross is probably able to recognize vervet monkey vocalizations. We saw behavioral changes in scanning and orientation toward the speaker after vervet signals were produced, and there was no behavioral change for European starling whatsoever throughout the course of the study. Then we found that Ross probably recognized the nature of the alarm call because he did show an increase in scanning after all 3 alarm calls are played, which is a natural anti-predator response to the alarm calls in wild monkeys. But he probably learned the meaning for each call and the predator associated with each call through learning, which he wasn't able to do since he was socially isolated his entire life virtually. So why did Ross fail to recognize the alarm calls and the predator associated with them? Again, he probably just didn't learn the calls. He didn't have a social group. He didn't have predators to help him understand and find a need for alarm calls. So it's also possible that Ross forgot these calls because he knew them at one point, but this is unlikely since monkeys exhibit the need to learn the calls in the wild. This research has potential to be applied as a form of enrichment. We saw increased vigilance overall with orientation and scanning in Ross throughout the study. He was more engaged with his environment, and it simulates a more natural environment for the monkeys. It can also be used as a rehabilitation strategy if monkeys who are going to be released are taught the call. They can be paired with model predators and model responses, therefore they are able to understand calls in the wild and have a better chance of survival. These are some people I would really like to thank, and thank you for listening.